good to check them out after service as well. So, oh, it's so good to see y'all. It's so good to see y'all. I'm Reverend Rainbow, by the way, because I know we have some new faces in the house. And we're like, who's this woman just jumping up there? So, yes. And although I was with you all just a week ago on Sunday, it feels like a world away. 6 of us went to Charleston, South Carolina this past week for the annual Centers for Spiritual Living Convention. And it was an incredible experience that was unlike any convention before. We planted the seeds at this convention of intentionality to launch this organization into its next becoming. I'm not going to give much more specifics about that because as you see, things look a little different today because shortly I'm going to invite up our other community members and leaders who joined me at convention, and we are all going to share some of our highlights from the experience. But one thing I do want to mention first is let's go to that next slide. What occurred at this convention is our very own, yes, Reverend Sunny Cantrell Smith. She is the founding minister here of Ahava Center for Spiritual Living, and she is currently serving a term as the elected spiritual leader of the global organization Centers for Spiritual Living. And Centers for Spiritual Living has the highest honor, which is to receive an honorary doctorate. This means you have served beyond the regular call of an ordained minister, done things in the community to further this teaching, and it also has many other requirements as far as many years of service and so on, and it is something that is you have to be nominated for and then selected and reviewed and all of this. So it's the highest honor. And it was a pleasure to witness this honor being bestowed on our very own founder, Reverend Sunny. So let's give it up for Reverend Sunny. Yes. And one other thing I'll mention is I was a part of the events team. I am on Center for Spiritual Living. I am also on the Sacred Activism Task Force, and I was also on a specific task force that Reverend Sunny and the other leadership team called forth to make this convention different than all others and to really be honoring and inclusive of the African American roots and ministers in our organization that really until now have not been given the seat at the table that they deserve. And that changed at this convention. It was the first convention that we acknowledged Black History Month. Tuesday night, the whole evening was a celebration of Black history. Being in Charleston has significant roots as well. So we invited and partnered with the Gullah Geechee choir performed. There was a Wona Womba African song and dance group that was there to share their tradition. And we also took a trip as an organization to the International African American Museum that just opened. And it's still integrating, right? The whole experience was so profound. We have some video clips that from those evenings, some of those presentations and talks on the YouTube channel for Centers for Spiritual Living, the greater organization that we'll be sharing and resharing and posting through our social media as well. So take a look keep an eye out for those to really get related to what we're gonna give some highlights on. You can go a little deeper. I also wanna acknowledge that every person who attended received a Explore Black Charleston guide and then received a copy of the Science of Mind guides that we read from this morning. And we also were invited and connected with the local LGBTQ group in Charleston, and they were present there as well. So it's a profound, intentional shift in the direction of our organization to not just talk about oneness, but to be about oneness. And so with that, I'd love to go to the next slide. Today's topic is discomfort is the least of our concerns. This month we've been talking about divine discomfort, right? What occurs when we get to a point in our life or in our collective consciousness in our society where certain ways of being, habits, thoughts, behaviors, no longer fit who we are today. And we find ourselves pushing up against that comfort zone to grow and to expand. And in that expansion, there can be discomfort. So as I'm saying these things that occurred at this convention, although the majority of us were like, yes, there was some discomfort present. And we addressed it with a place of love, with a place of, let's be open to have a conversation where no one is right or wrong. And let's take a stand for oneness and who we are as an organization. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and invite up our other participants, and we're, yes. Please welcome up Nancy Eisen, practitioner Patty Cooper, I'm gonna get myself, Jennifer Epperly, who's on our core council, Colleen Steele, who just came off our core council, and Cora Bell, who is our Sunday coordinator. Yes, I'm gonna grab myself a seat in this microphone, and I would love to start, y'all can sit down. I would love to start with, right over here with Nancy, and we'll go this way, and then, yeah, come on, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll get in the middle.
How about you just take their seat?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. I figured it out.
Hello, everybody. So I've got 2 or 3 minutes to tell you about a fabulous week. How's that going to work? I heard some of my favorite sayings this week, such as oneness isn't sameness, and unity is not uniformity. The authentic communication that Rainbow mentioned was very evident, and what I brought back was a process for deeper conversation. Some of us have done a form of this in other work we've done. 4 steps in this deeper conversation is 1, what happened? 2, how did it impact you? 3, how do we fix it with love and respect for each other? And 4, how do we keep this from not happening again? We did hear a lot about microaggression, and that term to me is actually a little aggressive, more than I'm comfortable with. So another person suggested that when somebody says something to us that feels like a microaggression, to say, ouch, or oops, did you mean to say it? Because what I've learned is that our intention may be well and good, but the impact we make is more important. So I know things have been said and done that have not landed well, and I know that person was well-meaning, but the impact was not what they hoped, not what I had hoped anyway. One of the presenters, a white man, wrote a book called The Lie of Whiteness. I have ordered that book, and it is based on the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I am going to I make a commitment now to you all today that I'm going to read and work with this book, and I see a class coming in the future. So if you're interested, and please let me know, and keep me accountable.
Thank you, Nancy. I love that. Yes. Reverend Dr. David Alexander created that material. If I could just come down just a little bit, Jennifer. Recovering from the lie of whiteness, and it is something that a year ago I put on my bookshelf as an intention for it to be something we do here. And I am grateful that you just answered that prayer, and that, yes, thank you. So keep an eye out for how we can do that work together as a community. Patty Cooper.
Okay, it was an amazing experience, full of heart and love and learning. For me, as I guess for everyone there, it was a chance to learn more, probe more deeply into the whole notion of oneness. Mm-hmm. And you may have noticed in the reading this morning, and I have noticed recently, and also at the conference, we often say we want to build a world that works for everyone. And what I heard over and over again at the conference was building a world that works for all. Mm-hmm. That includes the mountains and the rivers and the creatures, not just the sentient beings. Mm-hmm. So I love that. And thinking about that, I too was reminded of oneness is not sameness. Yes. That there's a rich diversity out there, and it's time for all of us to embrace it. Mm-hmm. So the Gullah Geechee choir performance was stunning, and yes, some people were uncomfortable with the Christian focus of the music. And yet, until others could realize the wonderful opportunity to learn about Gullah Geechee culture, life, music, all of it. So that was absolutely amazing. The panel on transgender and non-binary people was an opportunity, another opportunity to learn, to rethink and try to train my brain on those pronouns, to recognize that our experiences are not all the same. They're different, and that we can learn from each other about what your life, your culture, your music, your experience has been like. And that makes me grow and expand. Another aspect of the conference, and I'm not quite sure how to put this into words, was about the physical body. And I guess it does really follow up with the transgender and non-binary panel discussion, because Western culture has tended to locate all identity in a physical body. And that's just, it doesn't work. It's just a social construction, a belief. So our bodies are so important. And one of the things that really struck me was Reverend Marquita Pierre McAllister, thank you, who talked about her son, who was bipolar, and the challenges, and the lessons and teachings about if we combine this thing with this thing and bring it together, there is a third way. So, and I learned that in a couple of different ones. And another thing was about bodies. We are diverse. Some of us are neurodiverse. Some of us have issues with mental health. This is all part of who we are. Let's embrace it. Don't hide it. Don't make it a secret. Embrace it. Make it part of being in the oneness. Can I say one more? I went to a couple of sessions that really talked about about colonialism and its impact that is still being felt all around the world. Inside each of us, inside people all over the world. Human minds have been colonized with hierarchical thinking. That's like this. This helps perpetuate not only individual unconscious judgments or actions, but it also affects our collective, mostly unwitting, participation in reproducing and holding in place subordinating structures. They cause harm. So, while that's looking at the problem, I heard Dr. Reverend Raymond Anderson say over and over again from the book, The Four Pivots, we take the problem and we see beyond it to possibility. And then he takes it further to probability. And finally, inevitability. Thank you. Oh, okay.
My name's Jennifer Epperly, and my pronouns are she, her. And so I'm a proud mother of a non-binary child. And ever since they came out to me, it has been part of my journey to learn to be the type of mother I want to be to my child and to be supportive of this process. So for me to be able to engage in conversations with people very honestly and ask them, how can I best support them, was very powerful. And one thing I learned is an action I can take all the time, and that is that I can use my pronouns. And by normalizing using pronouns, it then gives them permission to say I'm, they, them, and not be different. For all of us to recognize that it's our job to tell people who we are and to thereby make space for the whole spectrum. So obviously that was very powerful for me, as you can tell. And that was just the beginning. I am not Christian, I'm Jewish, and there were a lot of different ways of reaching spirit that were represented at the conference. And when the Gullah Geechee choir came up and sang, I could have rejected that. It was very kind of, on my dad's side, we have Pentecostal holiness ministers, snake handling folks. So I could have rejected that song and that way of worshiping just from my own religious trauma. And I didn't. I found the beauty in their authentic expression of their sense of spirit. And I could really participate, and what I felt in the audience was others just jumping in and participating with full hearts, whether that was their culture or not. And I just found that absolutely beautiful. Then I went to a workshop, a woman who, she's a CSL minister and or practitioner or both, who is also a member of the Cree Nation. And she laid out a ceremony and walked us through a Cree ceremony, and at each step told us also how it linked to our CSL principles. And so once again, to find very tangible ways of living how we are one. Not the same, but still one. So I've been to Charleston a number of times. This time was very different. I could not separate my trip there from the history of that city in terms of slavery. It just seemed so heavy to me. And I thought I had done my work about racism, and I realized it's a process. Because, there were things that came out of my mouth that I did not intend, and I had to realize this is a daily process. I need to watch my words because words matter. I didn't know that 14.5 million West Africans made the Middle Passage from Africa to the United States, and 40% of those came through Charleston. I didn't know that 1 million or possibly more died on that trip. And when we walked around the city, clearly the history of slavery and the enslaved is inseparable from that city. So, I feel humbled. I really feel humbled. A couple other things I learned. Somebody gave a talk and started using the term enslaved, and they explained themselves. They said, when you say someone was a slave, that's about their identity as though that's who they are. That is not who they were or are. They were people, and they were enslaved. And then during that same talk, something that was very helpful to me is somebody said, you can be victimized. It does not mean that you are a victim. And so I have been victimized. I am not a victim. I am not the things that have happened to me. So, and I'll just share one other thing. I went to a session called Org to Org about nonprofits collaborating. And something's humming. Yeah, and someone else is participating. So in this discussion about nonprofits collaborating, it was suggested that a great way to grow your center is to find a nonprofit who really represents a part of your own mission, who you as a center want to be in the world, and to collaborate with them, invite them in, maybe have them share your space. That for us as a small center to think that we can completely do yet another thing might be too much, but if you invite in a nonprofit who already does that, then you're just augmenting your center. And there was an example of the Santa Cruz Center, and they have Jewish Shabbat services on Friday night. The Muslim call to prayer, I think they have Friday prayers there, Jummah prayers there also. And then they have a Sufi group who meets on Sunday afternoons. And from time to time, they all get together. And I think I'm missing some of the groups that they've invited into their center. And I thought, for us being a relatively small group, adding other groups who represent aspects of who we want to be can really be a great way to augment Ahava without us having to take on a bunch of additional work. Thank you.
I'm just going to tag on to that before you start, Colleen. So Reverend Elijah Christopher is the senior minister at CSL Santa Cruz, and they also were awarded the community, was like a Community of the Year award for their work that they're doing. And Reverend Elijah is a dear friend and fabulous, fabulous being. And another fun fact, as you all know, we announced that our beloved Reverend, or not Reverend, but Lauren Dechtenberg, our keyboardist and musician, moved to Santa Cruz, and funny enough, now finds himself playing at CSL Santa Cruz. Yes. So you can tune in to their, on YouTube, look up CSL Santa Cruz, time difference, get home from this, check them out, see Lauren. And I was a little jealous. I told Reverend Elijah, you have someone really special there with Lauren. So that's just, it feels another way that our communities are now connected, and we will continue to be as we grow into some of these ideas of what they are doing and how we can incorporate what feels right to do here in Lexington. So Colleen.
Hey, Colleen.
When Rainbow said she was going to ask us to get up here and talk about our experiences, I decided I needed to wear my big dog sweatshirt. Even a few years ago, I would not have been comfortable doing that, and it is because of my time here that I've become more and more confident. And I want to thank all of you for being my space to be brave. So when I told Rainbow, that I was traveling to be with family last Thanksgiving in Charleston, she offered that maybe I would like to go to this spiritual living conference. I received that as a personal invitation, and that's the reason I went. She announced it, but that would have just gone over my head. The vote of confidence that I would be a good representative for Ahava was very meaningful to me and my sense of value in this community. I had thought the main reason the Charleston area was chosen was for its beauty. Absolutely beauty. Being on the coast, the marshlands. For a time, Charleston was the capital of the North American slave trade. Historians estimate 50% of African Americans in our country can trace an ancestor back to this place. On top of that, the land was stolen from indigenous people. This city became the wealthiest city in the 13 colonies. After learning this about Charleston, I will forever view this area through a different lens. I used to think colonial times and even slavery were a long time ago. As I advance in years, those times don't seem so far off. So even still, there is so much healing that needs to be done to create a world that works for all. I commented that the Gullah Geechee gave a performance that felt kind of churchy. And Patty Cooper gently told me They weren't there to give us our kind of music. They were there to share theirs. And that is part of healing, being able to express yourself as you want to. I was raised in a faith that appeared to me to be very hierarchical. The leaders seemed to be at a different and higher level somehow than their congregations. I thought Rainbow and Sunny were different. I thought that may just be Sunny and Rainbow. But something that kept coming up at the conference is how real the speakers were. I told several of them that their being real and authentic makes them more approachable for me. I believe that is one of the reasons that CSL resonates with me. I like the idea of ownership, and not as possession, but in meaning that I belong. And with this, I will say, we are Ahava, and we are Centers for Spiritual Living.
And now I would like to announce the unofficial Miss Congeniality of the most recent conference. Everyone loves Corabelle. Corabelle made a huge impact on our organization. And yes, a group of us deemed her Miss Congeniality. Sash to come.
Wow, thank you. I feel like I need a like have an acceptance speech and everything right now, but whew, oh wow. Hello, my name is Corabelle. I use she, they pronouns, and I am trans, femme, non-binary, and I say this because you may not always know by my appearance. I learned at this conference that our language and our rhetoric is very powerful. What we say and what we put into the world can and most likely will happen. I asked myself in this conference, I was a little anxious about going. But I asked myself to be open. And I'm so glad that I was. What I learned is that you cannot love humanity. You have to get specific. You cannot use broad terms. You have to get specific. And in order to love humanity, you must put a name on it. How many of us, go around saying, I hear you, but I see you, but. And it's these specific generalizations that we forget the other person is a part of us as well. And so, who do I need to be in this discomfort? And can I hold this discomfort in a sacred way? Well, our spiritual director, Reverend Dr. Sunny Cantrell Smith, and also the founder of Ahava, it was my very first time ever meeting her. I absolutely love her. Has a definition of sacred activism. And sacred activism is the intersection where consciousness becomes action, where prayer becomes movement, and where spiritual principle becomes practice. Sacred activism is the activity of bringing our CSL global vision into reality. So, our global vision, this oneness, this inclusivity involving us all. Understand the things in life, but do not let yourself be defined by them. When you see people for who they are and for the gender they are, that is when you are putting your words into action. Last week in Oklahoma, a 16-year-old non-binary individual was murdered for entering the bathroom of their assigned gender. But it was not the bathroom of their choosing. And I don't even want to say choosing. Do you see what I'm saying? Because it's not a choice. This is where rhetoric and language is very important. So I want to say their name, Nex Benedict. And I would like for us all to say their name and then hold 1 minute of silence for them. So, Nex Benedict. Thank you. This morning I woke up and I saw that the Oklahoma GOP, I will not say the senator's name because they do not deserve this, but used their rhetoric and their power to say something that really, really hurt me. They said, we are a religious state and we are going to fight it to keep that filth out of the state of Oklahoma because we are a Christian state. We are a moral state. Wow. What I want to let you all know, that is not here. That is not in here. I want to let you all know that we are an inclusive community committed to personal evolution. And guess what? Currently within our state, we have 11 bills that are attacking the LGBTQIA plus communities and trans youth. And so I want to leave you with this. I said in the very beginning, we have to get specific. If you do not know a trans individual, and I'm also talking to the people online, or a non-binary individual, put my face to that and make it specific to you to help you see that we are all one to help Kentucky and this world work for us all. So, thank you.
Thank you, Corbo. So let's take a deep breath. And turn to what we know. Knowing that there is one life, one energy, one source back of all. And this life, this energy is love. Divine love. This energy, this life is freedom, is wholeness, is joy. And knowing that there is only one divine activity occurring right here, right now, I know that this is the very essence and nature of who I am. That this is the truth of all life. We are one. Living and moving and having our being as love, as a unique expression of life itself, showing up as freedom, whole, perfect, and complete, as one. So it is from this place of oneness that I speak this word now, knowing that a healing is happening now. that the great discomfort that we are experiencing on this planet is to allow something new to be birthed. A greater understanding of unconditional love, of the wholeness of life that embraces all, that every expression of the divine is whole and holy, for we are one. So I know in this moment that however these words have stirred our heart and our soul this day, that we ask ourselves, what is mine to do? What is mine to do? To sit in the oneness, to listen for that inner guidance, and then be moved and guided into action. To take a stand, to be that ally, that advocate, that co-conspirator. Those of us with privilege to use our privilege to highlight, to center the marginalized communities, to listen to who we are to be and what we are becoming. As an individual, as a community here, as Ahava Center for Spiritual Living, and as a global society. What does love look like now? What does wholeness look like now? How is love, how is spirit seeking to express through me now? To allow this vision of a world that works for all to be fully realized. So I'm so grateful. So grateful for the words that have been spoken, for the hearts that have been touched, and for that stirring in our soul to be the love, always. And with gratitude for the fulfillment of this prayer, I release it into the action of the universe, of the universal law that always says yes. Yes, my beloved, it is done and it is so. And together we say, and so it is. That's right.